Hello viewers and subscriber. Welcome once again my new screencast. I would like to say this is the continuation of the screencast number 37. This was the last weeks I did the further development. Then today I try to cast it for you. Then even though I try to make new screencast series with the web GIS or web mapping programming with the leaflet. The previous one was the screencast number 37 was based on the web GIS or web mapping programming with the OpenLayers libraries. So that's why I try to give it to you informations like to finish the screencast number 37, which was the web GIS or web mapping programming with the OpenLayer libraries, and also the further discussion how can you start the same functionality or same features with the leaflet libraries. So you see the functionalities and features and with the leaflet libraries, and then how can you build a very simple web pages, and then how can you integrate those pages into your real web applications, and even though how can you integrate some graphical functionalities, as like here some graphical functionalities, and then with the leaflet and jQuery and other JavaScript libraries. That was the idea to discuss with you. Then the next screencast, maybe the screencast number 44, I will cast it as like 44, and then I will share with you later for these projects, this WebGIS programming with leaflet JavaScript library. That's one of the future plan to make a new screencast. But today I try to continue the screencast number 37, and then this the 37 based on the open layer libraries. How can you integrate, and then the open layer libraries with your web GIS or web mapping programming with simple JavaScript and HTML and CSS. If you saw that my screen my channels, you have a lot of the playlist, and then you see the web Java web GIS and mapping programming with Groovy Grails or JS programming, and then this is one of the screencast web GIS and mapping programming. That's I had started with the leaflet libraries. That's one of the example that I show you here. This is one of the example, but I still the one basic videos here, just like older video for my school, so my university projects. I will continue the further for the WebGIS and with the leaflet JavaScript library programming. So that was the screencast number, the screencast that I am talking about. That one we have almost 6 videos for here. So that's today. This is the screencast number 37.7, and I will continue the further developments for the continuations. Just follow the previous screencast, and from the very beginning level from and the end level, and then I will continue the further development means. But these the screencast that I did, how can you start the project creation, how can you inject all the JavaScript libraries, and how can you customize your own JavaScript functions, and then how can you integrate those JavaScript functions inside the HTML page, and the dependency, and write down some very simple CSS. That was one of the really basic for the beginner. Even though the professionals, if you have really need a really very simple web page with maps, and then you can integrate very quickly within a day those functionalities and those features into your web application. Doesn't matter web application is a big enterprise applications. That's the thing you can do very quickly. That's I mean. So let's recap the our presentation part. That means I'm continuing this part what I have it in my last screencast, and then I will continue the further development for this screencast. So we have a lot of possibility to make it like here grid, and then show unshow stations, all the things you can possible to do. It's like and you have a printing functionalities, and then so on and so forth, and then you have a graphical presentation, some statistical information. There's so, so that means you need to follow the previous screencast number 31.37.1 up to 30.6, and then 7, and then I will continue the further development. So let's have the presentation part that we already talk about this one detail, the little bit presentation part, how it is look like. So I already talk about there are two different web GIS and web mapping functionalities with the UI frameworks. Like I have some examples with Angulars, and I have some web GIS programming with the Timeleap with JavaScript based template engines, FreeMarker, Grails, JSP, and JFSAPs, Java Server Pages, Java Faces, Server Pages. Sorry, here is the mistake in the spelling. And then this is the part I'm those who are don't like to use the any UI framework, that means a simple JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Then even though you can build a web GIS web pages, or you integrate those map pages with the additional information into the enterprise web application, that's I mean. So that means this is the part we are continuing. There's JavaScript, HTML, CSS plus OpenLayers. That's the continuation of my screencast. And the future screencast that I try to look and discuss with you to how can you build a leaflet based web GIS and web mapping programming, except the OpenLayers. But that was the idea, because those who are not interested to use the OpenLayers for their client requirement or their project development requirements, then I found really good. If there's someone who need leaflet based development, then I can give it to you some ideas how can you start. That's why I say this is the two different screencasts. So open layer based screencast and the leaflet based screencast with the same functionalities, maybe different functionalities. I found different use cases, then I will try to explain with you. So just follow the previous one. So we all talk about this one. I have different projects and different application with different type of technologies, and Node, Angular, TypeScript, open layers based, and then Node, Angular, TypeScript, but leaflet based enterprise application. This is the enterprise application. Even though you can follow my channels, there is a many videos how can you start as like a professional web GIS or web programming. That's I mean, how can you start that, and then you can continue the further development with the different technologies. That means you have can very simple Angular, TypeScript based, Node.js based web applications with the geo functionalities, with the leaflet and open layer. Doesn't matter which technology stack you are using, or your company or your clients want it. That depend on. That's why I'm trying to really find out the use cases and the possibilities of different map libraries integration with your web GIS programming or web JS mapping programming. And with the end of the day, you integrate those web maps and web GIS functionalities with your enterprise web application, because this is the really very special web functionalities or web mapping functionalities. Then you have to learn as a geo programmer or geo development programmer. Yeah, the geo programming career to build based on that one. That's why I try to give it to you some really basic idea from the very beginning level to the professional level. I mean, that's why the some many beginners and the subscriber asking me to give it to some theory understanding the use case as thinking power, and how can he think about, or you can think about, and how can you make such a enterprise level application. That was the idea for building those screencasts. So I already talk about my channel. There is many examples. How can you start the install the geo server, configure geo services, and consume the geo services into the your HTML page or your web pages. So this is the one screencast that I already talk about. That one, the web GIS mapping programming, JavaScript, open layers, and Google Maps API, Google Maps, and then web GIS web mapping. So this is the I am the continuation of my today the screencast number 37 dot as 1 dot up to 7 is there. Then I will continue the 37.8 number. So this is the one of the the overview feature, you see that the titles OpenLayers JavaScript. So this is 37. You can follow the last screencast and continue the further development. This is one of the screencasts that I tried